Hey, so today I have a very special guest with me, Josh Gray, the co-founder and CEO of Artemis, a company empowering data analysts to work faster and automate data transformations. Earlier this year, Josh was recognized as the top youth entrepreneur of the year in Canada by the League of Innovators. I'm really excited to have you on today, Josh. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Josh, let's get started. So for those who don't know about Artemis yet, could you give us like a little bit of a pitch for the company? What does Artemis do and who is it designed to help?
Totally. So Artemis is a data startup based here in Vancouver. And really what we're doing is we're building an AI junior data engineer. So really what that means, and it's our main product, it's called Diana. And Diana acts as what we call an AI agent, which can actually do work for the users. And really the problem that we're trying to solve is that data engineers have a lot of context that they need to keep at all times, whether it be what models they should be working on, where data is stored, how it's been worked on, and they need a lot of help with that. And so what our junior data engineer can do, Diana, is she can help those engineers work faster by bringing that context to them faster, helping them maintain that context so it's actually consistent, and really just help them actually do the work. And that's really how it's different. Rather than just being another tool that you have to fill in and manually work with, Diana does the work for the user rather than having to be told what to do. So yeah, I've been building that for about a year now, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's great. And you've mentioned the term AI agents. A lot of people are saying 2024 is like the year of AI agents.
Yeah.
For some people, it might be a new term, something that they've not heard of it yet, right? So could you explain what they are, what's an AI agent, and what kind of tasks they can handle?
Yeah, totally. So the complex way to kind of talk about it is that agents, leverage multiple tools like LLMs and maybe proprietary tools like, I don't know, Salesforce and things like that. And they provide much more fluid ways to interact with software, and they can do and perform tasks on behalf of the user. I think the easier way to put it is actually just agents are like smart little helpers that can actually use the technology that you have and do the work rather than you having to do it yourself. So a great example, let's go through a simple sales example. You're a sales, you're a BDR on a sales team. You have to fill out your CRM every single day, right? With all the different lead information. Well, hopefully an agent can actually fill that out for you. And rather than you having to go in and say, hey, I talked to this lead based on this, the contract size, is their phone number, this is their name, this is their company. An agent can actually maybe, let's say, read your transcript of, let's say, the call that you had with the user, and then go in and fill all that information in for you. So right there, you're taking a piece of software that really would have been hard to automate earlier and pre-AI, let's say, because of how inflexible that data is. However, LLMs make data really today, whether it's structured or unstructured, super flexible, and they can basically take that and perform work on top of it for you. So the way I like to think about it is more though a little helper that can help you out and do the work with you.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And why do you think they're becoming so increasingly important these days?
I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ROI case studies about it. I think for me, what's exciting and kind of the sentiment is, since the PC, the last 20, 30 years has really been all about moving and inputting data into software. Like when you think about most SaaS tools, what are they? They're databases that you can put that you have to fill out, right? A CRM, it's a customer database that you put in all your information about your customers. It gives you a nice UI to do that. So it's maybe not a spreadsheet, and then it can help you understand what's happening in your business. Same thing for, blog posts. It's a lot of that is just data that you're moving around and writing and putting out. What's really exciting about agents is that digital paper pushing, so to speak, can actually be automated and taken away from us, which means that we can get really into the value of what we want. I'm a big believer that the value of a worker isn't in the fact that they can digitally push paper and fill out forms, for, the CRM. No, the value is in that person deploying and understanding, okay, here's a problem that I'm trying to solve. How do I want to go solve it? If you have more time to do that, what you can do for your business is astronomically more.
Mm-hmm. That's a great take. And so I want to get into how Artemis actually leverages AI agents. So you've talked about Diana. Could you explain how these agents interact with like a data engineer's workflow, for example?
Totally, yeah. So we're pretty opinionated in how we built Diana, and really what we believe is that Diana should be working with the engineer hand in hand where the engineer works. And so because of that, while we do have a web UI, we also work within tools like VS Code, like Slack, like GitHub, where our engineers are already working, where our users are already working. And you interact with Diana just like you would any teammate. You can tag Diana and ask it a question, and then what Diana's going to do is take that, break that down, and actually then start to do the actions of that task and show you step by step exactly what task she's doing in order to solve that problem. So let's go through a super simple bare bones use case. I'm a data engineer that wants to, fix a broken pipeline, right? Pipeline of mine's broken. How do I fix it? Well, if you ask Diana, what Diana can do is first go and investigate. So it can go and open up the file in the error logs. Hey, why did this pipeline break? It can read that and say, hey, we think that broke because of X, because the error logs show X and Y, therefore this is how you need to fix it. So Diana is now able to investigate. She can read the file. She can then understand why it's broken. Then she can say, hey, well, because it's broken because of X, we can actually fix X by doing Y. And then actually start to go through the steps to fix that. And then in the end, she sends the user a PR request in GitHub to approve that change. And so right there, you have a full step-by-step breakdown of exactly what Diana did, which is super transparent. It's not black box, but it's able to take in super, flexible inputs, a random question or natural language, and then take that, break it down into a series of tasks, and provide an output that's useful to the user.
That's great. And you said that Diana works hand in hand with a data engineer. I'm curious, how steep is the learning curve for like a data engineer like me to start leveraging Diana?
I mean, as long as you can speak to people, you're good. Diana is super easy to work with, right? LLMs have really given the world an easy interface. Now, we've built Diana in a way that it actually takes care of a lot of the things on the back end for you, so you can actually have a super high level. But also, we want to give you the juicy details, right? As a data engineer, you want to know what Diana is doing. You want to be able to test and validate the actions that she's taking. So we give you everything that you want to see in the UI that's really easy to work with and easy to use. But you interact with Diana in a natural language way. So you just ask and delegate work, and Diana's able to take that and run with it.
That's amazing. It reminds me of the trend that we're seeing with, for example, Databricks that's democratizing access to data, for example. So that's amazing. How do you envision Diana or Artemis to transform the day-to-day of a data engineer, for example?
For us, we want you to crush your weekly tickets. That's what we want to do. We want to make data engineers get promoted. Like when you think of like what gets us up and out of bed into the offices, we want data engineers to be working at 5x what they currently are right now, and not to be bogged down by things that in reality they don't even want to do. Right? There's so many little pieces of manual processes and tedious activities that data engineers put up with because they always have had to, where we don't believe they need to anymore. And so if we can get an engineer to output close 10 more tickets at the end of the day on Friday and actually enjoy their weekend, that's a huge win for us. So really what we're trying to do is build Diana in a way that she can handle more and more complex use cases so that you can actually work hand in hand with this AI agent. The other benefit as well, I think the flip on the other side is what's really powerful too is Diana has full context of all your data. So it understands your models and how they interact with each other. She understands your warehouse by pulling in metadata. And so because of that, it's like talking, to somebody who has full access. It's like talking to the first engineer that set up the entire infrastructure, right? They all know it, but if they were to leave the company, there'd be a lot of issues, right? We've essentially built Diana to be like that person. And what's great about that is that you can work with Diana to get your answers faster. You can work with her to solve problems, and debug issues faster. And so we don't see it at all as a replacement. If anything, we see it as a huge accelerant to what engineers can get done in a day and what they can accomplish over a year.
That's awesome. And you kind of answered that, my next question already, but I still want to get into it because, AI for a lot of people that are not as familiar as with the technology as us, it kind of scares people, right? They're scared that it may eliminate their job or replace them fully. So I'm curious for you to elaborate a little bit more on, okay, so is Diana going to replace my job as a data engineer, or is it going to augment and really enhance the work that I'm doing?
Totally. Like I kind of said, we don't really see Diana as a replacement. Now, Aaron Levy, who is the founder of Box, huge enterprise company, he has an amazing tweet. Actually, I wrote a blog about it. You can find it on our website. And it really kind of walks through this calculus of, what does it mean to bring on AI productivity? And the point he makes is every company in the world is capital constrained, basically. Unless you're like Microsoft or Amazon, capital is usually the number one dictator of how companies are run, right? Do they have a large headcount? Do they have a low headcount? How many teams do they have? Do they even have a data team? Based on the amount of revenue and income a company makes, that's going to impact that question. Now, with AI, what's powerful is, let's say you have 10 engineers, right? And you're able to get 50% more done. That doesn't mean you therefore, or you can double your output. That doesn't mean therefore you can fire half your engineers, right? Because if you fire half your engineers, you're just going to get done what you were currently getting done. But if we can get done double with the same amount, we can actually bring in more revenue. We can get more done on our roadmap. We can accelerate that much faster. We can pull that revenue forward. Well, what's that going to mean? It means we make more money, which means that we need to scale faster, which means that we need more people to help us get there, right? Like it's a very iterative process that I'm a huge believer that will actually snowball to more people. Sure, there might be smaller teams at some organizations that can make do without, but that was happening regardless whether people wanted to say that or not. Agents have huge potential to really accelerate what teams are doing currently. And yeah.
That's awesome. Can you elaborate on the pre-built knowledge graphs? I think I've read that on your website or one of your
Yeah.
blogs, and I'm curious how they accelerate data cleaning.
Totally, yeah. So really what knowledge graphs are, and they're a piece of technology. My co-founder was really working with them early, I'd say, a few years back now. And what's exciting about them is that it's really the way of how we're structuring and giving context to LLMs today. You look at companies like, amazing Canadian companies like Neo4j, and a few others who are really leading the charge. But for us, it's a great way for us to contextualize and give Diana a roadmap of how and what to look at. And so for us, how we operate is when we integrate with a company, we integrate with their data warehouse and we integrate with their GitHub. And in GitHub, we just integrate with their model repo for their data models because we don't want to access anything else. And so because of that, using our knowledge graph that we've already built and then can take in that context, we're basically able to build out this really rich graph that Dyna can traverse to actually understand what's happening. So when you ask it, hey, investigate this pipeline bug, or hey, go write this model on X, or hey, go look at Y, Dyna knows what to do and where to go. And so that it's kind of, we like to think of the knowledge graph as almost like, the Google Maps, right? It's plotting out the neighborhoods and the streets that can tell the self-driving car where to drive. But there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's a really cool technology.
It is. Do you see a future where Diana can handle more complex data engineering tasks, like building data pipelines, for example?
Absolutely. I mean, we've already done it. So 100%. It's funny, we have a promo on right now. So if you're listening to this, go check it out. Where we basically say, give us the most complex data engineering task you have. And if you give it to us and Diana can't do it, we'll send you a $50 gift card of your choice. We want to be testing and pushing Diana to the absolute brink. So if you have one, come let us know, and we'll see if Diana can handle it.
So can you give me a few examples of different tasks that Diana can accomplish?
Totally. So one of the examples I gave earlier, which was that idea of fixing pipelines. So taking the error logs of saying, hey, this pipeline keeps on breaking. Maybe it's an issue in the warehouse. Maybe it's an issue, in the actual model, right? In the DBT model. Dyna can basically look at that, investigate it, and then actually write the code to fix that in real time, looking at upstream and downstream impacts. Giving you that root cause analysis and the fix while you're sleeping is a huge value add to companies, right? It's a very complex thing. And can save a whole lot of time and a whole lot of issues, if you have a pipeline that's been off or not running for 12 hours. So it can help kind of with that downtime, that monitoring. Another big one as well that we've really seen is investigation. So pair programming with an engineer when they're going through maybe building out a really complex data model for, let's say, a new product that they brought online. Pair programming with that user to say and actually get the right documentation in place, get the right unit tests, all that sort of work can be done with Dyna.
So now I want to get into a bit of ethical, consideration. So AI is taking more and more responsibility in different tasks like data engineering. What ethical considerations should companies be aware of, and how does Artemis ensure transparency in its agent decisions?
So by ethics, can you kind of elaborate on that?
For example, responsible AI. You know that, for example, AI models, usually they're considered as black box. We've talked about it earlier in this conversation. How do you ensure that this is not the case with Diana, that we know what's going on, how it takes decisions, how it,
100%. I think for us, we build a platform that our users want to use. And users today don't want black box solutions, right? They don't want that. They want clear output with clear understanding of how they found that output, especially when it comes to calculations. If you want an LLM to write you a blog post, I don't care, the statistical background of that LLM to write that blog post. That's whatever. But if you're doing calculations, you're looking at how a model and you're changing code, absolutely. I want to know how you did that, right? I want to know the sources. I want to know the references you pulled. I want to understand, what models you used on that. We highlight all of that in our UI. So like I was saying earlier, every single task that Diana does for you is shown in our UI, which means that you can go through and see exactly what Diana was looking at. Even if Diana messes up a task and fixes it herself, you'll see that. We're not going to cover that up. Even if Diana makes a mistake, and sometimes, here's the reality of it. AI agents operate like humans. They don't get it right every single time. They're going to mess up. That's just part of the game. It's non-deterministic software. It's non-deterministic technology, which means that you can't actually predict the outcome. It's going to be different slightly every single time. And so because of that, you need to be able to have an interface that if it does make a mistake, you can fix it really, really fast and really, really easily. And so we are really transparent in how we provide the insight into exactly what Dyna does in a way that, if we're being honest, probably more transparent than some employees, right? If you ask Dyna to do a task, she's going to tell you the second she's done. She's not going to, do half of it, go for a coffee break, come back to it, you know what I mean? And not say how she did it. She's going to give you, step-by-step breakdown of exactly what she did. So it's really easy to follow along. It's really easy, actually. Funny enough, a great use case we've seen is teams, when they're trying to solve a problem, they'll give it to Diana and they'll walk through the solution as a team to see how Diana would have done it. It's a great learning tool as well.
That's awesome. And adopting technology is usually a lot of change management within a company, right? What advice would you give to a data team that may be a little bit hesitant to adopt, like Diana, for example?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on why you're hesitant, right? Like if you're a hospital and it's security, then yeah, maybe be hesitant. You know what I mean? Not from the perspective of it's your duty to make sure that everything's secure, right? It's like, maybe not rush into that. However, I think for most teams that are looking to explore, I think a lot of teams right now are afraid that they're going to get either replaced or that they're not going to have any value. And for us, the way we look at it is like, you know, if anything, you have quarterly goals. Let's get those quarterly and 6-month roadmaps collapsed to the next month and a half, and let's blow the socks off your boss, right? Like let's have your manager scratching their head going like, how in the world did they get all this work done, right? Like that's not going to get you fired. That's going to get you a promotion, anything. And kind of like what I was saying earlier, for us, we want our users to look like superstars. That's the goal of Diana, so that when you're using it, it looks like there's 10 of you everywhere, right? Because it's just, you're able to do so much more faster. And so for us, like, we totally understand that hesitation, but we really encourage teams to dive in and really start to experiment, because there's so much opportunity in what you can do. And there's so many ways that you can make your life and job so much more enjoyable.
Would you be willing to share like some success stories that you've had with clients that benefited from Diana?
Yeah, totally. So, we've had a couple users, and I won't say names just for now, just because it depends on the contract.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, absolutely. We've had some, we've had one in the healthcare space that used Diana to really optimize and scale their team. They had a smaller data team. I think it was only 3 or 4 engineers, and they were really falling behind on their annual metrics that they were trying to report. They had a huge conference coming up, and they were able to leverage Diana to basically get all the reporting done for year end, and then actually scale and start to do more work on that conference work that they need to get done. That's just a quick example. We've had others who use Diana to basically automate how they fix and maintain their pipelines. So, looking at mistakes and issues and bugs and sending that report to them, they wake up now knowing this will be, this has been investigated as to why it breaks, and they can go in and make those changes right away in the morning. So really practical, simple use cases that save a lot of time, and honestly, a lot of fear of what if this breaks in the middle of the night or 3 days ago and I don't ever know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that can kind of be taken away.
That's amazing. Do you have like a specific number for how much more productive I can become using Diana?
Yeah, we typically see if you can delegate about 5 to 10, 10 tasks a week, that saves you about 15 hours of work.
That's awesome. What are the most exciting developments or features that you're working on or that are like on your horizon for your company?
Oh, it's a tough question. There's a lot. I think one of the things that really has me excited is, and stay tuned, because we'll be putting some more information out about this, is to build and understand how Dyna works. We built out this really comprehensive evaluation, this really big benchmark that we use internally to understand what tasks Dyna can get done, how well she can complete it, and then how we can improve Dyna. Basically, it's kind of how we use it. However, there's not really many in the data world that show. There's a lot of evaluations for software engineers, but there's not a lot of evaluation for data engineering, because there's not as many data engineering agents. And so we're really excited. We're going to be launching and releasing kind of some of the insights on that in the next week and a bit. So stay tuned for that. But we're really excited to see, how kind of the analytics and data engineering communities respond to that evaluation, how they feel about it, and kind of where they can see that value.
Josh, I want to give you the floor to share some last words. Whatever you'd like, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just think, get into this stuff as fast as you can. I think there's so much opportunity in this world right now. There's a of hype. There's a lot of, not real value being accrued. Absolutely. But there's a ton of real value being built right now. It might not be recognized today. It might take, 5 years for it to really be, seen. But this is, an internet-like event. It comes every once in a while. There's a ton of opportunity. It's a really cool space to be in. It's super exciting. So if you're kind of, on the sidelines of it, get into it, dive in, and learn as much as you can.
Thank you, Josh. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.